Halotestin.org podcast coming your way. Episode 372 compound episode. Stevesmi here. Hey, Rickster. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
All right, guys. So in this one, we're going to do our series continues where we do group steroids. So some of these steroids that we're going to talk about in these group episodes, we may overlap them. So in this one, you might hear one that we already talked about from the bulking episode, but the difference is we're going to tell you how to use them, how to dose them for specifically strength and what kind of strength you can expect on each of them. This way you guys can make the best educated decision. Of course, there's no black and white answers to all this, but our experiences, between Rick and I, we're talking 50 years experience between the both of us. So we're going to give you a good idea of which ones you can use, how to stack them, how much to use, how long to use, if you want, your goals are strength. All right. So guys, what is strength? First of all, so I'm going to define my thoughts on what strength means. And I'm going to bring in Rick to give his thoughts because Rick and I have different histories. I was a strength athlete originally. I was a competitive powerlifter originally in my younger days. Then I went away from it for a while, and then I went back to it, and I was able to break personal records in my early to mid 30s through strength training and using these strength steroids that we're going to talk about. So to me, what does strength steroids mean? To me, it means how much can you bench? How much can you squat? How much can you deadlift? How much can you curl? How much can you lift, pull, etc., push? All that, to me, that's my idea of strength steroids. Being strong in the gym isn't all about, how much can you bench? It's about across the board. I mean, it's a difference between going and picking up 20 pounds to curl and picking up 80 pounds to curl. It's the difference between throwing 2 plates on the bench press and throwing 3 or 4 plates on the bench press. Same thing with a squat. You can go and squat 1 plate and you get a hell of a workout. But if you want to squat for strength, you got to be putting 3, 4 plates on there and doing reps. And that's strength. That to me means strength. So these are the steroids. These steroids that we're going to talk about in this episode, these are the steroids that if you have never used steroids before and you are a strength athlete, you can jump on these steroids and hit personal records in strength. And that's what happened with me when I started using these particular steroids that we're going to talk about. So Rick, give your definition of strength steroids and what you view as strength steroids. And then we're going to get into our first one.
Yeah, it's just when you get those high personal records, those high PR lifts, those 1 or 2 rep lifts that are big and heavy. And these steroids give you that. As far as being able to push out a lot of different reps and sets, not the best, not what we're talking about here. We're talking about 1 shot, 1 load, 1 or 2 reps. Basically, maybe powerlifting steroids. Would that be a good assumption, a good way to sum it up, Steve? Good powerlifting steroids.
Yeah, if you're a powerlifter and you don't care about making your weight class, then these are the ones for you. Because, we can talk about Anadrol, Winstrol. Those are great for strength. Those are great if you want to stay in your weight class. You don't want to move your weight. This is going to be steroids that you can take that are going to push you to another weight class. So if you're a weight class powerlifter, you want to be careful using these. These are just for those who don't care about making a weight class. They just want to get stronger, period, in a fast amount of time and hit PRs. These are the ones, guys. We're going to give you the top 3. All right. So the first one we're going to talk about, if we're going to talk about strength steroids, this is the nectar of the gods, and that is Trenbolone. Now, why is Trenbolone so good for strength? If we look at the way Trenbolone is used right now in the cattle industry, I'm going to bring in Rick on this because Rick is our history guy. And Trenbolone originally, parabolone, was a pharmacy grade, human grade steroid. And it was designed okay, as a great bodybuilding steroid. Then it was pulled off the market, banned in the United States. You cannot buy legally pharmacy grade Parabolin or Trenbolone in the United States. You can't buy it. It doesn't exist. You can only buy Tren underground. So the thing is with Tren, today it's actually used in the cattle industry to get these cattle big and strong. So Rick, tell us a little bit about the history behind Trenbolone and how it's led to today being such a great bodybuilding and specifically strength steroid. And I'm going to get into why it's such a great strength steroid and give you some examples of what it did for me specifically.
So Parabolin was the original Trenbolone that went out on the market. And that one got discontinued between 1992 and 96 is when Parabolin was last available. Around 2001, 2002, some guy on the forums named Animal, I believe that was his handle on the forums. He had his own forum too. And he came around, and what he started doing was he started selling these kits so that you can take cattle pellets. You know, these are the pellets that cattle were being implanted in. And at this point, it was Trenbolone acetate. It was a shorter acting Trenbolone. And with the kits, you could buy a pellet kit of a pellet cartridge, I should say, of Finaplex H, which is what you could just buy. You don't even have to prove you had a cow at the very start. And you buy a cartridge of little pellets of Finaplex H that you would normally use an implant gun and put in the cattle's earlobes. With this kit, you would take all of the pellets, toss them in the dissolvent solution. That would separate your active hormone from the binders, from the fillers that made up the pellet. The binders and fillers would drop to the bottom as a little cloudy mess. The hormone would rise to the top. Then you would use a syringe with a Wattman filter attached to it, and you would absorb the top part of your mix, trying not to put too much of the filler into the syringe. Then you would put it in a different solution and so on until you finally got a nice amber colored Trenbolone acetate. Now, mind you, this thing still gave you nuts wherever you injected it, like golf ball sized nuts right at the depot, because you weren't getting rid of all of the filler, in my opinion. There's still some that leaked in there. There's still some stuff in there. Probably shouldn't have been in there. It was around 2001, 2002. And then Trenbolone came back as a veterinarian steroid around 2004, 2005, around that era, when Denkow, which is a Australian company that was doing business and manufacturing in Mexico, Denkow brought it back into the market as a veterinarian steroid. And as far as I remember, that was like the first time that Trenbolone was seen again legitimately, quote unquote legitimately, after it was discontinued in the early 90s. It was through the Denkow brand, which is they had all the paperwork to be a legitimate Mexican veterinarian outfit. They were bona fide, and they were in plants. They were making their stuff in bona fide plants that were inspected by the authorities. And look, whatever you think about Mexican regulation, at least these guys were under some sort of regulation. And then after Denkow, the Quality Rate came out, then Animal Power, then a lot of different stuff. And then pretty much once you got into the late 2000s, around 2007, 8, 9, early teens, 2011 through 13, 14, now you had Trenbolone acetate and Trenbolone naphthate showing up in every underground lab list. Every list out there had Trenbolone acetate. Everybody, British Dragon had it, Golden Triangle, to name some old school underground labs. Balkan Pharmaceuticals, everybody had their own version of Trenbolone acetate and an naphthate, and it was now readily available to everybody. But that was kind of a quick history on the black market of Trenbolone. If you guys want to see the actual full Trenbolone history, like to listen to the full Trenbolone history, I should say, you need to head over to our Evolutionary Radio channel. Just type in Evolutionary Radio on the search at YouTube, and there you can find our Trenbolone show, which is show number 286 is our Trenbolone show. And I give a bit of more of an in-depth look at the history of Trenbolone, but that's about it.
So we're going to talk about the top 3 strength steroids. The beauty part of these 3 steroids, Rick, that we're going to talk about is you can run them by themselves. They're so powerful and they're so amazing for strength that you could literally run them by themselves and have tremendous results. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're benching, right? You're stuck. You can't get to 3 plates. You're busting your ass. You're up to like 305, 310, 315. Okay. But you can barely do 3 plates, or you can't quite get 3 plates. A little short, 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds short. And on a day where you're kind of not feeling it, you can only maybe get 300, 305. So you're falling a little short of 3 plates. Now, the beauty part about Trenbolone is you can hop on Trenbolone, run this stuff at a low dosage, 200 milligrams a week by itself. And I guarantee you, if you're a consistent weightlifter, you stay healthy, you know, you don't go out and drink the night before, any of that crap. You go in there 2 weeks on trend, you will break that plateau. You will smash that plateau. Not only will you smash that plateau, but by week 4, week 5, week 6, you'll be hovering closer to 350 on the bench. Same thing with a squat. If you're only able to get a 400, barely 400, you can only gut out 1 or 2 reps at 400. You get on trend, you're going to be gutting out 440, 450, 460 on trend by itself at a low dosage. That's what trend does. Now, with me specifically, when I run trend, I like to basically stack trend with a mild steroid because I don't want side effects. So what I would do, I do trend 200 to 250 milligrams, stack it with some Anavar, stack it with some T-Bol, either or. And that's the stack that I broke my personal records on. I could never have done the type of weight I was doing without Trenbolone. And if you don't use Trenbolone anymore, you stop and say, I'm not going to use Trenbolone more. It's going to be hard for you to ever go back and lift that kind of weight because it makes you superhuman. I'm like opening jars. I'm opening jars and the jar is exploding in my hands. That's how strong this stuff makes you. I'm breaking stuff around the house. It's like the Superman movie where he's like touching stuff and breaking them like without even trying. That's how I feel. I'm accidentally breaking shit around the house. I can't tell you as a fisherman when I go fishing, how many fishing poles I snap in half when I'm on Trenbolone. Because I'm so fucking strong on this stuff that it just makes you strong from head to toe. It's very, 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 it just makes you superhuman. So if you've never used Tren and you want to get strong, but you put in the work already, you put in the work and you truly hit a plateau that you can't bust through. Don't tell me, you're lifting, you can't get to 150 pounds. Okay. You're not ready for trend. You're not ready for trend. If you're a 200-pound guy and you can't even bench 150, 250 pounds at 200 pounds, you're not ready for trend. Okay. But if you're a smaller guy, less than 200 pounds, and you're struggling to hit 3 plates, then you could be ready for trend. You're probably ready for trend. If you're a 200-pound guy and you're trying to hit 350, then yeah, I can give that to you. You're probably ready for trend. But if you're only benching 150, 200 pounds, no, you're not ready for trend. You haven't truly hit your strength plateau. Go and hit your strength plateau first, then you be ready for trend. So trend is one you save the trend till when you're truly ready for it. Because once you use it, you're not going to want to go back to other steroids. You'll never hit that peak. So you want to make sure that you're ready for it. Okay. And you want to be smart on it because you can injure yourself. You get so strong on the stuff that you injure yourself. Anything else you want to add, Rick? What's your opinions on how to dose it and stack it?
My opinions on all of these drugs are that the performance effects of it are really in the earlier dosing, in the smaller dosing. If you're already a a talented power lifter, if you already have good technique, good form, your head's in the right place, your lifestyle is in the right place, little dab will do you. Couple 100 milligrams a week. Diminishing returns start to kick in around 300, 400, 500 mgs a week of some of these steroids. That's my opinion on it. Maybe, maybe that might not hold true, completely true for powerlifting because you're doing one rep. Maybe with that one rep kind of powerlifting, you can get up in the higher dosing before you got diminishing returns. But if you're talking about CrossFitting, if you're a CrossFitter, or if you're talking about some of these other sports where you have to sustain the activity for longer periods of time, once you get up higher dosing, then you'll start to get issues like pumps in your back, your forearms, shin splints. It's one of the things I suffered from Trenbolone was shin splints whenever I would go Thai box, which I like Thai boxing. So just doing a regular session of hitting the pads, I'd just get the craziest shin splints from doing higher dosing in Trenbolone, from doing 400 milligrams a week of Trenbolone along with other steroids. So your real performance gains are in the lower dosing with all these steroids, in my opinion. And Trenbolone is great, can be used standalone. A lot of guys do. It's a great steroid to be used standalone, but it really shows what it can do for you when you mix it with other steroids. It works synergistically with pretty much everything. I've said it many times. In my opinion, it multiplies, amplifies, multiplies what the other steroids do for you. So if you're taking testosterone, if you're taking equipoise, Anadrol, whatever it is you're taking, when you mix it with the Trenbolone, everything just works better. So in my opinion, Trenbolone really shines in any stack, but standalone is also great. So I'm not going to shits on it. Say it's not. So it's also great. It's a standalone.
So the second steroid we're going to talk about is Anadrol for strength. Now, Anadrol has a nickname. The nickname is A-bombs. Now, why would it be called A-bombs? It's because this stuff, guys, especially during the 90s, they basically popularized it because of its effects on strength. Fast and ridiculous amount of strength you can put on this stuff. If you take it 50 milligrams a day for just 4 weeks, this stuff will have you lifting more weight than you've ever dreamed of lifting. Just 4 weeks. That's all you need on this stuff. And it's an oral. So you take it orally, it works fast. I can tell you running this stuff, I was lifting. I'll give you an example. On the bench press, I was doing about 6 reps for that particular lift on my bench press, right? 3 days on Anadrol. And I kid you not, I was doing the same amount of weight for 8 reps after just 3 days. So running Anadrol just by itself, 50 milligrams a day. This stuff is ridiculous for strength. And, you don't have to stack it. Again, just like Trenbolone, you don't have to stack anything. It's so fucking strong that you can just run it by itself and you'd be smashing your personal record. So Anadrol is a weird one, though, because Anadrol is a DHT derivative, so it doesn't aromatize into estrogen, but it binds to estrogen receptors. Tren does not aromatize into estrogen, nor does it bind to estrogen receptors, but it can convert to prolactin in the body. So it's a little weird too, but Anadrol is a weird one because it's liver toxic. It's as an oral. It's a DHT derivative, so it gives you DHT side effects like losing your head hair, enlarged prostate, gives you a lot of androgenic side effects, especially with your heart health. And as I said, liver toxic. So it's going to pound on your liver. It's going to pound on your kidneys. It's going to pound on your heart. It's going to pound on your head hair. It's going to pound on your prostate. It's going to pound on your lipid, your cholesterol levels. Stuff is brutal. That's why 4 weeks You want to reevaluate the situation after 4 weeks. You may not want to run it longer than 4 weeks. Some guys go 5 or 6 weeks, but I would not run it longer than that. So this is one specifically. If you want to use Anadrol, you're saying I want something in 4 weeks that is going to make me way stronger and make my body bigger, fill my body out, make it bigger. That's what Anadrol is for. Pure and simple. You will never run Anadrol if you want to cut. You will never run Anadrol if you just want something mild. This is 4 weeks, do or die. You better make sure in that 4 weeks you're hitting the gym hard. You're hitting the gym hard, smart and efficient workouts. And you want to make sure you're already conditioned, because if you go on Anadrol without being conditioned, you're going to spend the entire 4 weeks injured and sore. And that doesn't make any sense. So you want to make sure you're going into it healthy, conditioned, in great shape. This way you can take full advantage of it. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, great steroid Anadrol is one of those older steroids, one of the original steroids that was developed in the late 1950s. Now, with Anadrol, the effective dose seems to be just 50 milligrams. You know, when you had stuff like Winstrol and Anavar out on the market available for human consumption, you're talking about 2.5 milligram tablets. But Anadrol seems to just start at 50 mg per tablet. Anadrol is still available in the US for prescription. It was originally used in the treatment of anemia, but has since seen some use in AIDS patients. As far as strength, it's probably one of the best powerlifting steroids next to Dianabol. It will make you gain some water weight, like Steve said, not from conversion to estrogen, but just because it can bind to female receptors, estrogen receptors, progesterone receptors, unchanged. It can bind to these female hormone receptors completely unchanged without going through any conversions. So you do get a little bit of water retention with it. And I'm pretty sure that's where some of his size and strength effects come from. It's a great steroid for strength. We mentioned it also in bulking because it's also a great bulking steroid. But when it comes to strength, it's hard to really find another steroid that's going to give you just that hard one shot, one rep strength that Anadrol gives you. And if you are a weight class athlete, chances are it'll make you blow out of your weight class. Chances are that it'll do that to you. So it's just something to use with caution and something a steroid you really need to have a lot of respect for, a lot of respect on how you use it, how long you use it, and if you're going to stack it, what else you stack it with. It's a very, very strong steroid, very effective at what it does.
Tell us about the temper. That's another thing these strength steroids have in common. I feel like they're all structured to give you increased androgenic aggression. So if you're a hot-tempered guy, okay, and Rick, you don't strike me as a hot-tempered guy. I could be wrong, but you don't strike me that way. But if you're out there and you're a hot-tempered person, taking any of these that we're talking about could land you in jail. Am I wrong?
You know, I think if you already have some issues with self-control, steroids will just make it worse. Steroids are just going to amplify that. Now, if you get into a little bit of friction with words with another man over whatever, it could be a parking lot, gym, or restaurant with your lady, whatever. If you're on steroids, you might be less likely to walk away from it. If you're just a regular guy, regular Joe, I'm not talking about somebody who goes around picking fights, but just if you're a regular guy and you get into it with another guy over whatever, if you're in that sauce, you might just turn around and go walk towards that guy instead of just walking away and saying, fuck it. But beer will do that too. Alcohol will do that as well. So it will have an effect on you. Are you going to go out and start beating people up when that's not the way you are normally? Probably not. Probably not. It's not going to just turn you into someone you're not. But you'll be less likely to walk away once you get heated, once somebody says the wrong thing in the wrong way to you. So it's definitely something to know. We've discussed this on the podcast before. Trenbolone is one of those steroids as well that not only will make you aggressive, it'll make you horny as hell. It'll make you want to pursue situations with females. And if you are in a committed relationship, monogamous relationship, you might get into some trouble because it'll make you go and walk the extra steps to go talk to that girl, to follow that conversation. It'll make you maybe ask for that number when you normally would just get your ass on home to your old lady. So they will have an effect on the way you feel, something you have to be really, really aware of. And it goes hand in hand with just respecting these steroids and knowing who you are and having some self-control.
Androgens affect people differently. Some of you are going to lose your temper on them. Some of you are not going to be able to sleep on them. Some of you are going to be impatient on them. I wonder if it's connected to how you were as a baby. Were you one of those babies who, when you got tired, you whined and screamed and yelled? Were you one of those babies who got hungry and screamed and yelled and whined? Were you one of the babies that wanted to sleep? And if you couldn't sleep because you were at your parents took you to a movie or a football game or something, you couldn't sleep, you whine and scream. So how you acted maybe as a baby translates to adult, how you react to these androgens. So for me, I'm an impatient person. And Rick should know that by now. I'm an impatient person. So I don't like to wait, for things. So if I'm at a restaurant and the waitress, she brings out my fajitas, she forgets to bring me my wraps, my tortilla wraps, I'm gonna get upset. I'm gonna blow up, So that's an example. I've had that happen to me before when I've been on trend. And then I not only blew up on the waitress, but then I blew up with the girl I was with because I got cranky because I got hungry. I'm on these androgens. I got hungry. So these androgens are not only making me impatient, they're also making me hungry. So then I blew up at her, and then she got all upset, and she storms home. And then I had to be like, "Oh, sweetie, it's okay. I wasn't mad at you. I was just mad. I'm very picky about my food." And then she forgave me. But the point is, you got to be careful on this stuff, guys, because this stuff can amplify any of your traits. So you want to keep that in mind with these androgens. These androgenic steroids are no joke. They're very, very serious androgens. So you got to very, very be careful. So with Anadrol, guys, 25 to 50 milligrams a day. It's ample. You could literally run it at 25 milligrams a day for 4 weeks, and you blow through your PRs, no problem. And end of story. But you got to take your aggression out in the gym. You don't take your aggression out on other people. That's what you got to learn when you're using these types of steroids. Because if you don't do that, if you don't take your aggression out in the weight room, you're going to have to take that aggression out on someone else. Or your body is going to want to take the aggression out. And it's not going to let you sleep at night, for example. That's a perfect example. Some people get insomnia on these androgenic steroids because they're not getting that baby batter out during the day. You got to get that baby batter out so you can sleep at night. Otherwise, you're just going to want to work out, fuck, and eat all day. And that's not healthy. So you gotta get that baby batter out if you're going to use these steroids. Be prepared to do some sort of physical exercise every single day. I'm not saying go lift weights every single day because you're gonna injure yourself. But you need to lift weights at least 4 or 5 times a week. And you need to, on the days you're not lifting weights, you need to find something to do to occupy your body, whether it be, going for a hike, kayaking, anything, and these aren't the best steroids for endurance. So you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go and climb a fucking mountain on these steroids either, because you're not going to have the endurance. So you got to be smart about it. Anything else you want to add, Rick, before I move on to the last one?
Yeah, I mean, just meditate a little bit. It's real easy to do. You only need about 5 minutes a day of some good clear-headed meditation, and it'll just change everything about the way you feel. And when you're on these androgens and you start to feel angry, you can kind of understand it, and you can kind of hold that anger in the palm of your hand and have more self-control. It's real easy to do. Practice mindfulness. So easy to do. Go to YouTube and YouTube mindfulness meditation. It's about one of the easiest things you can do. You could do it a couple minutes in the shower, a couple minutes when you're eating your food, a couple of minutes before bed, and 5, 6 minutes a day of meditation. Man, you have so much self-control. And man, will you have so much control over your feelings. It's incredible. You won't have anger or frustration overtake you. You pretty much can hold it in the palm of your hand. I guess it's good way to put it, and look at it and understand it and know that it's just a feeling, and that you need to just continue to do the things you know are right and not be overtaken by emotion. So that helps. And like Steve said, if you're already a angry guy to begin with, you got criminal record for battery and assault. Like if you've already done these things, or if you're going to go and mix these steroids with other drugs like heart stimulants, maybe like ADD, ADHD medications that are pretty hardcore stimulants, with alcohol, with that yayo, with the cane, right? We're gonna go mix these steroids along with other rec drugs. Man, are you gonna run into some problems, some serious problems with self-control, the way you feel, the way you act. It's gonna bring you issues. It's going to bring you problems in life that you might not be ready for. So best thing is nice, good, clean living, meditation, and just practice a lot of self-control, a lot of emotional maturity. Look, there are guys that do a ton of steroids, are lifelong athletes, win shit, and they never get into problems. They never beat up on their old lady or get charges beating up on people. And then again, then there are guys that grab a little bottle of Anabar or shoot a couple amps of Sustanon, and they go and punch somebody at their job and get fired, or they go and put their hands on their old lady. It's just really has a lot to do with who you are as a person and how much self-control you have.
All right, speaking of self-control, Halotestin is the next one, strength steroid. Now, Halotestin, you think Anadrol is strong, Rick? Halotestin is stronger. You only need 5, 10, 15 milligrams of Halotestin to equal 50 milligrams of Anadrol. This stuff is brutally strong. But the cool thing about Halotestin is it doesn't aromatize into estrogen. So, it's a dry steroid. So you're not going to take it, you're not going to blow up, but you're going to get stronger and you're going to get more aggressive on it. So Halo is a very interesting steroid. Tell us a little bit about what you know about Halo in terms of its history and when guys started really using it.
So Halo's been around since 1956. It was first described in medical literature in 1956, and it was introduced for medical use in the United States in 1957. It's just a very controversial steroid because it doesn't really have good uses in medicine, and it just isn't all that great or effective compared to other steroids that build in muscle or anything like that. Halo will have an effect on your personality, how you feel, and it'll for sure have an effect on your strength. But it's really not one of those steroids that you're going to really want to take for any other reason than just to give you a little boost in performance. It's not great at anything else, really. Very, very limited history on it, very limited use. It's mentioned Trenbolone as an honorable mention in the last two podcasts about cutting and bulking steroids. We mentioned Anadrol, had a section on Anadrol on our bulking steroid podcast. Halotestin wasn't an honorable mention and didn't get included in either of those shows because it's not great for cutting, it's not great for bulking, and it's not an honorable mention at both. It probably is the only pure performance day of competition steroid out there. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, see, I've used Halo twice, Rick, and admittedly, I really feel like I got fake Halo because I didn't get what I expected out of it. So I would be curious, I would be curious to actually try a real Halo, and actually, I have access to real Halo now, but it doesn't fit my goals right now. So, but at some point, if I ever get back to strength training again, if I ever, end up being crazy again enough to go back to strength training, I'll definitely try it. But from my clients who have actually used real stuff, from the guys on the message boards, actually real stuff, you don't have to run much of it. Like literally 10 milligrams a day. This stuff is so strong and so toxic on the liver that if you run a high dosage, you're actually it's counterproductive to yourself. It's counterproductive. So this one is one that you can run for like literally like 2 or 3 weeks and notice a huge jump in your lifts. It is so fucking strong. So, guys report they get just as good a results off of that much Halo, 10 milligrams a day, as they would get with 50 milligrams of Anadrol. That is a huge disparity between 10 milligrams and 50 milligrams. That just shows you how strong this stuff is. So on paper, it's 20 times more anabolic and 10 times more androgenic than straight testosterone. That's ridiculous. Trenbolone on paper is 5 times as anabolic and 5 times as androgenic. So this stuff is 4 times more anabolic and 2 times more androgenic than Trenbolone on paper. That's how strong this stuff is. So it's really a tremendous steroid. And again, with this one, you're almost better off not stacking it with anything because it's so fucking strong on its own. It's got so much side effects that if you stack it with something, you're just going to get more sides. So it doesn't even make any sense to stack it with anything. So if you want to try Halo, you hit a barrier, it's worth a shot, but you really need to use liver support with all 3 of these steroids. You need to be using liver support supplements at N2 Guard, 7 to 10 caps a day of N2 Guard. I'd run 10 caps a day personally. If I ever use this stuff again, when I use Anadrol, when I use Trenbolone, in the past, 10 milligrams a day, 10 caps a day of the N2 Guard. And that really makes a difference. That makes a difference. And you guys have to remember with these strong strength steroids, it's the mental aspects like we touched on, it's the physical aspects, and it's the health aspects that you have to be aware of. Because if you don't, you can end up really, really taking years off your life. So you have to be smart about this stuff, guys. These are very, very serious hormones, very, very strong. So the key is use them at proper dosages and don't use them for long periods of time. If you took Halo, legitimate Halo, for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, you're going to do so much damage to your organs, to your prostate. It's going to be very hard to even reverse that. It's going to be very hard. You'd have to come off steroids for 3 years to reverse that damage you just did. So don't do that, guys. Run it 4 weeks, 5 weeks at the most. Don't be. All right, Rick, anything else you want to
add? Steve, have you heard of any people you work with or forum guys that have made some good aesthetic changes with Halo, or has it been mostly just performance?
It's a cutter for sure. It's a cutter, but the problem with it, you're running it for such a short time that it's not a good one to cut down. So I would use it for strength. I would not use it to cut down. It's just not going to be a smart choice. There's better steroids out there to cut down. Anavar, T-Bol, even Winstrol would be better to cut down.
Yeah, Halo is just that one, that oddball steroid that you just want to use short term coming up to the day and the day of performance, but because of its nature, you just won't be able to have any really good long-term benefits from it, physically at least, the way that you look. So yeah, man, I think that wraps up Halo.
All right, guys. So Guys, this is another episode. This was number 372.
Quick, guys, quick. Let me throw in there quick, Steve. Honorable mentions on this episode as far as strength steroids. Honorable mentions. Superdrol, great strength steroid. That's a good honorable mention. Superdrol. Also, methyl Trenbolone, which we don't touch up on a lot of this podcast. You only need 2 milligrams of methyl Trenbolone. It's very toxic, sort of like Halo is. That's also a great steroid. They're very similar to Halo in what it does for you, and also very toxic. Main reason you only need to be taking 2 milligrams a day, 3 milligrams, a very short end of the dosing spectrum, because very toxic. Winstrol will give you some good strength, make your joints brittle in the process, might be more injury prone, but it works. Anadrol doesn't get really mentioned a lot in strength, but that one is a pretty damn good steroid for strength as well. Low side effect. Any other honorable mentions that we should maybe just throw in there real quick?
Well, technically, every steroid. I kind of was thinking about this before we did this podcast. Technically, every steroid you can build strength on, and you should build strength on. Even something as weak as Proviron, which is pretty much a dead DHT derivative. That's all it does. Is it helps bind to SHBG in the body. It helps your DHT levels, etc. Something like that. Even that will technically help with strength. So every steroid can help with strength, guys. But these three, I think, and then the honorable mention, Superdrol, those are the big ones. Those are the big ones. And we will get into talking about Superdrol later on in one of the class steroids. That is one that's very, very important, and that it's a very good one for sure. It's definitely an alternative to these three. But at the end of the day, I'm very confident, guys. These three are the absolute best strength steroids, and you don't have to stack them with anything. You can literally run them for 4 weeks and blow through numbers that you would never have imagined. All right, guys. So 372, we will have a next one. Next week, we'll have another one, guys. Take care. We'll talk to you then.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.